Alright, hi, I'm Mikayla, and I'll be doing Bill and Pete to the Rescue by Tommy DePaola. There was a lot of excitement on the banks of the Nile while William Everett Crocodile, who was called Bill, and his best friend Pete, who was a bird, lived with Bill's mama. "What in heaven's name is going on?" Mama asked. "Little Jane Ellison Crocodile is missing," Pete said. Little Jane was Bill's cousin. "Missing? How terrible," Mama said. "Where could she be?" "Well, at least we know she didn't go to Cairo to become a suitcase," Pete said. "The bad guy's still in jail for trying to steal the sacred eye of Isis from the museum." "But he's the only one who steals crocodiles," Bill said. "No, he's not," the old crocodile said, swimming up with the news. "The bad guy's big bad brother is in town from the United States of America, and I saw him loading a little Nile crocodile, an ibis, a hippo, and a camel onto the Cleopatra in the harbor." "Cousin Jane! Oh, my dear," Mama said. "What can we do? It's times like these I wish your father was here, and not a suitcase." "Well, come on, Bill, let's see what we can do," Pete said. "Okay, Pete," Bill said, "let's go." Bill and Pete found the Cleopatra in the harbor. "Smoke is coming out of the smokestacks, Bill," Pete said. "It's getting ready to leave. We have to go now." "Wait a minute," Bill said. "I have to write a note for Mama." "Dear Mama, I have to go away, but I'll be back. Don't worry. Love, Bill." "P.S. Pete is with me." He finished writing, rolled up the note, put it in a bottle, and sent it up the Nile. Bill and Pete crept onto the ship and became stowaways. "You stay here, Bill," Pete said. "I'll go fly around and see if I can find anything out." And Pete flew all over the ship. He saw sailors working. He saw waiters serving people in deck chairs. He saw a rich lady standing by the railing. And he saw the bad guy's big, bad brother. Pete flew back to Bill. "He's here, all right. I heard the bad guy saying that he's going to be taking a little Nile crocodile, a hippo, an ibis, and a camel to the United States of America." "Cousin Jane!" Bill said. "We have to save her, Pete." "I know, Bill, I know, and we will. But little Jane and the others are all locked up down in the back. We can't get them until we land." The next day, Pete flew over the ship again. This time, the bad guy's big bad brother was talking with the rich lady, when all of a sudden, the rich lady's handbag flew off of her arm. "My handbag!" she cried. "All of my jewels!" Pete swooped down to get it just before it hit the water, came back up, and offered it to the rich lady. She grabbed it, and Pete! "You sweet little birdie," she cooed. "I'm going to take you back home to my mansion as your reward, where I can take good care of you." And before Pete knew it, he was hanging in the rich lady's stateroom. Poor Bill. He waited and waited for Pete. Where could he be? Days and days went by. Poor Bill. And poor Pete, day after day swinging in that cage. The Cleopatra was leaving the ocean and heading up the big river to the big city. Suddenly, two big doors opened. Bill crept up, looked out. He saw cages being loaded onto a big truck. Cousin Jane was in one of them. Then he saw Pete being carried by the rich lady. She got in a big car and drove off. "I better try and save Cousin Jane first," Bill thought. "Then I can try and find Pete and save him too." Bill thought. He waited until it was dark, and as soon as it was, he crept off the ship and swam up the river. He swam, and he swam, and he swam, until finally he reached a swamp. "Well, hey there! And what kind of gator are you?" I'm William Everett Crocodile. but everyone calls me Bill, and I came all the way from the Nile on a big ship to save my little cousin Jane because she got kidnapped by the bad guy's big bad brother. Howdy do. Alright, I'm Antoine Pierre, alligator, and you are in the Decatur Bayou in the great state of Louisiana. Now, a bunch of us gators live here, so why don't you just come on with me and we'll see if we can help. Alright? And you can call me Bubba. So, Bill and Bubba swam up the river until they got to meet the other gators. Meanwhile, Pete was being carried up into a big mansion in the garden district of the city by the rich lady, in a lovely room at the top of the... In a lovely room at the top of the house, the rich lady said, "Up here, little birdie, you can see the whole city." She put him in a big, fancy bird cage. She made sure he had fancy bird seed. And she even left him a radio so he could listen to it when she was out. That night, a big moon rose over the city. Pete looked out over the lights. A tear rolled down his cheek. "It sure is lonely here at the top," Pete thought. Under the same moon, Bill and the alligators were coming up with a plan. One of the gators knew where the bad guy's big bad brother's exotic animal farm was, so they would go there and free the animals. Yes, they would. Pete was so sad. He sat staring out the window, listening to music on the radio. "We interrupt this program to bring you an important news flash. A huge group of gators have crawled over the levee in the French Quarter. Also, there's a small light green gator not like any we've seen in these parts before." "Bill!" Pete thought. Just then, the maid came in. "Well, how there, sweet birdie. I'm just here to clean your cage and... Well, why don't we open a window and take care of that fresh air? And let me out," Pete thought. Sure enough, as soon as Pete's cage was opened, he flew out the window. "Freedom," he thought. "Now to find Bill." And there was Bill, at the head of a line of alligators headed toward the exotic animal farm, followed by a bunch of reporters and photographers. "Bill! Bill!" Pete shouted, flying down to meet his friend. "Oh, Pete, I'm so glad to see you," Bill said. "Bubba, this is my best friend Pete that I was telling you all about." "Happy to make your acquaintance," Bubba said. "Now let's go get him." Bill, Pete, and the alligators stormed the gates. The bad guy's big bad brother's helpers all ran when they saw the alligators, and in the cages were the exotic animals. "Why, this is against the law," reporters said. "These animals are endangered species." They grabbed the bad guy's big bad brother and held him until the police came to take him away. "Whew. Come on, Pete," Bill said. "Cousin Jane has to be here somewhere. Let's go look." They looked all around the cages and saw a sign. "Nile crocodile. Very rare." "Cousin Jane!" Bill shouted. "We're here to rescue you." "Oh, Cousin Bill!" said little Jane Allison. A big crocodile crawled up next to little Jane. "So, this must be the cousin I've heard so much about," he said. "Tell me, you're awful brave to come all the way across the Nile to save your little cousin. I used to live on the banks of the Nile. Tell me, have you always lived there?" "Oh, well, yes, sir," Bill said. "I'm William Everett Crocodile, and everybody calls me Bill." "William Everett," the big crocodile said. "Do you live there with your mama and papa?" "Oh, no, sir, just my mama. My papa got captured by the bad guy in Cairo. He's a suitcase now." "No, he isn't," the big crocodile shouted. "William Everett, I am your papa. Your mama and I had your name picked out before you were even hatched, and then I got captured by that bad guy. I have been here all this time." "Papa," Bill said. "William Everett," Papa said. "William Everett," Papa said. Bubba interrupted. Bill, you, your cousin, your papa, and Pete are welcome to live here in the bayou with us. Oh, well, thank you, Bubba, Bill said, but Mama would miss me. We promised we'd be back, Pete said. And what a homecoming it was! Bands playing and flags flying and confetti in the air, and there on the docks was Mama. Oh, Bill, oh, Pete, she said, what heroes you are. Look who's with us, Mama, Bill said. My husband, oh, Papa, how I missed you so, she said. Papa hugged Mama. And now we can all live together as one big happy family, Papa said, all because Bill and Pete came to the rescue.